Hello, and welcome to the second episode of this brand new channel where I document my journey towards retirement. So I'm 51 years old. I plan to retire at 57, or at least have the option to do that. And I intend to do that via my investments, through my private pension, through my ISA, and generally my attitude towards preparing for the final destination. In the first episode, I highlighted the reasons why I'm starting a brand new channel. And for the second episode, I'm thinking to discuss my starting point, where I am, how I look at my investments, what my strategy is, and what my retirement number is. Because you have to have a goal in mind. Now, I'm going to tell you from the very beginning, I'm not an expert in finances or investments of any kind. I've been investing passively for about 7 years now. Why do I say passively? Because initially I did not even realize I was invested. My first pension account started in 2019, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. I think, yes, I used to work for a bank, and they had this benefits portal, and they were saying, "Hey, we're going to give you 6% from your salary, and we'll put that into your pension, and then we're going to match what you contribute up to another 6%." So I thought to myself, okay, I'm getting some free money. Here's 6%, and I'm going to take your 6% as well. So they effectively meant that my 6% returned 18% in total, which is quite a decent number. And that's how it started. But I didn't really understand how it was invested. That particular bank did not make it very obvious. There was the default investment strategy basically, and if I remember correctly, to be fair, I could check because I still have that account. I could just log in and check. But I can tell you, because I remember it was divided into two. One of them was a growth kind of thing, as they were describing it, and the other one was a bit more like a passive kind of thing. So, bottom line is, it wasn't that great in terms of returns, but it did okay. It did grow over the years. So I believe I'm just over 30,000 into that particular account, and I've been struggling to transfer it to my SIP for quite a while now. So now I'm starting to jump a little bit between things. So I think it's time to clarify things a little bit. So 7 years ago, I had no idea what I was doing, but I did what I thought made sense. Just I'm quite happy to accept free money whenever I can. So I wasn't going to say no to an offer like that. So 6% for free, I'll take it. Thank you very much. But like I said, I had no idea how it works. So I was in that place for about 2 years. I didn't really look at my investment account. I didn't really understand what it was invested into or how or anything like that. As soon as I left that company, then I started somewhere else, another pension account, same kind of thing. I don't remember exactly all the details of every job. I mean, myself being a software engineer, I tend to move a lot between jobs. So 2 years in one place is quite a lot for me. Usually it's a year and a bit, sometimes even less, which means that over the years I've accumulated a number of accounts, probably 5 or 6, I reckon. Um, and I think it was about 3 years ago, 2022 or 2023, I don't remember exactly. Again, I could check. I promise for the next episodes, I'm going to get a bit better at actually showing some more things on the podcast on this particular episode. So it's not just a not moving screen, but I'm not very experienced just yet. But I'm going to get there. So bear with me for a while I lay out the information. So um, I think, yeah, I think it was 2022 when I started to pay a bit more attention and trying to understand a bit more about what's happening, because I noticed I had a number of different accounts, and I thought, okay, it's time to learn a bit more. And I started to read and to watch other people. There are a lot of channels on YouTube which explain investments and ISAs and pensions and whatnot. Now, if this particular terminology doesn't mean anything to you, it probably means you're not from the UK. Now, I'm from the UK, and I'm hoping it makes sense. If it doesn't make sense, there are always equivalents in any other country. The Americans have their IRAs, I think they're called, or investment accounts, whatever they call it, something like that. So there is something relatively equivalent everywhere. But the important thing is not necessarily what they're called, is what the investment strategy is. And I think that's the important bit to lay out. Now, like I said, I didn't know a lot. I was learning, and at some point I discovered this thing called the SIP. And the SIP is a self-invested pension, private pension, self-invested private pension, SIP. And the idea was that you could open an account like this with a provider, and then you could start transferring pensions from different accounts into one final destination. And that's what I started to do. I remember I transferred one or two accounts. I had something like 30 or 40,000 pounds into that a few years ago. I decided to invest it into a Vanguard fund. Vanguard was my platform of choice, not because I knew anything about it. It's just it came highly recommended, like a serious provider. They've been around for a long time. So I thought, okay, fine. I didn't really know anything about platforms, so I thought I'll just start with Vanguard. How bad can it be? So I opened up my SIP, I transferred a couple of things, and suddenly I had some money. And in terms of investments, Vanguard had something which was called some retirement funds, and the one that I chose had a 2035, the year 2035 in the name. I didn't really understand much about it, but I understood that they're basically targeting a retirement 2035, which kind of matched what I wanted to do myself. So that's why I chose it. Of course, later on I found out that actually what happens the closer you get to the retirement date, to the retirement specified in the name of the fund, the more they start to switch into more defensive investments like bonds and something else. But at the time I had no idea. So I just put the money in that and I left it. So that was back in 2022. So I left the account for about 3 years. And at the same time, I also opened an ISA, which is an account where we can put some money. In the UK, we can put up to £20,000 and invest it into something. And then when we want, we can take the money out whenever we want. And there's no tax on that. So I've put overall about £1,100 and I left it. Like I said, I had no idea what I was doing, but I wanted to see what happens. So I put some money in and I just left it. Fast forward to just recently, a few months ago, basically. So 3 years have passed. So I thought, okay. And I want to specify very clearly, I did not look at those accounts at all for 3 years. I even forgot about them. Towards the end of last year, I thought, okay, it's time to get a bit more serious, because it was towards the end of last year when I decided actually I want to retire pretty soon, and pretty soon meaning 5 years or so, or a bit more than that. I'll explain why. There's a reason for that number. So I thought, okay, let's have a look at my investments and my private pension and get a bit more serious about it. And to my surprise, my ISA went from £1,100 to £1,800 in about 3 years, which was about 50% growth, which is amazing. I was quite happy with that. But of course, being such a small amount, it didn't really mean anything. It doesn't hit the same way as a big number does. It's nice. It's a nice percentage, but the number is small because I didn't have a lot of money. I mean, £600, it's nice, but it's not going to change your life, is it? I'm not going to be able to retire with that. And also my pension has also increased. It did roughly about 11% a year on average, like 12 something in a year, 10 something in a year, 11 something in a year. The average was around 11%. And I was ecstatic about that. That was quite a nice growth, I thought. I would have been happy with 4 or 5%, to be honest with you. Or 6%, but 11, whew, thank you very much. I will take that. So then I started to watch a lot of people on YouTube and trying to learn a bit more. And then I realized a lot of people were saying, hey, if you're younger, you should go into stocks because, they're riskier, but you have more time to recover if something happens. So I thought to myself, thinking about it, bonds, very defensive, stocks. I decided to go 100% in stocks. So what I started to do, I started to gather pretty much all the other pension accounts that I had and start to transfer them into my SIP. And it's taken a while. It took a while. And one of them still hasn't been transferred, which is the one from the first one from the bank that I was telling you about. That one, they make it very difficult. I've been trying for months now, and they keep asking for they respond very slowly, and then they keep asking for more forms that I have to sign. They want wet signatures, and it's just taking so freaking long. But I think I go to the end of it, and hopefully it's not going to take more than another couple of weeks before everything comes into play. And I had some big surprises, because as I was bringing accounts into my SIP, I've noticed some very serious growth in some of them, some pretty big numbers. Now, I'm probably not going to mention the exact number, but I've got a decent 6-digit number into my pension. It's not a huge number, by the way. It's not. Don't think that I've got like 900,000. No, but it's a good number. And then I thought, okay, I've got that. And I decided I'm going to keep investing just a bit more than usual. One thing that I've done, I'm going to mention this. In the UK, we have a very strange system where you get taxed more based on how much you earn. So the more you earn, the more you get taxed, which might sound fair to some people, but it's killing any desire you have to actually get paid more. So anyway, the point is, once you start earning over £50,000 in a year, and from that point onward, everything you earn is taxed at 40%. And I did not like that. I said, I do not want to pay 40% on anything. So what I started to do was to increase the percentage that was contributing to my pension high enough that my actual salary would become 50,000 and change. So I did not have to pay 40% tax on anything. And I did that with tax calculators online, which are very good at telling you what your percentage should be, so you don't actually pay that tax that I was telling you about. And I'll show you in a future episode how I do this kind of stuff. I'm sure it's obvious to everybody, but I'll do it anyway, like I said. But for now, I'm just figuring things out on YouTube and how to create videos and how to put information together. So you'll have to bear with me for a while. I'm not an expert at these things. But hopefully what I'm giving you so far is interesting enough and kind of explains how I'm thinking about things. I don't want to pay 40% on stuff. I want that to go into my pension. Even if I don't have access to it now, and even though I earn less, I have more for when I retire. So that's kind of the idea. So now I'm at the point where I invest about 23% of my salary goes into my pension. Again, drops me to 50,000. And I also invest a sum of money, which I'm trying to do around £1,000 a month, into my ISA. So I'm doing that regularly at the moment. And I've just started working on my ISA a little bit. So my first goal is to see £10,000. That I can tell you that one is about £6,500 right now. I started towards the end of last year to be a bit more serious, and I started to invest a bit more when we had the drop in the market in March. When how everything went down. I thought, okay, do you know what? I'm going to put a bit more money and buy when the stocks are low. And I've had a decision actually. My pension is now invested into something else. So I told you how I started with the Target Retirement 2035 fund from Vanguard. I'm still on Vanguard, but I switched to something which was 100% stocks. And that was a couple of months ago. I made the switch, and now I'm invested into a global cap ETF. It's not actually, no, that's wrong. It's not an ETF. It's a mutual fund. It's quite a weird thing, and it's called Global Cap Index something. The ticker is VAFT-GAG or something like that. So I switched to that one. I tend to keep my investments very simple. I've got one fund. In my pension is invested into one fund. My ISA is also invested into one fund. That's it. I like simplicity. And I chose for my ISA, which is small, because I realized it doesn't really matter what I get when I have such a small amount of money. I'm just going to invest into the S&P 500 ETF on Vanguard, because I thought the Americans are going to do quite well. And after a year, I'll look at it and reconsider. If I don't see at least 10% growth, I'll probably switch to something else, like probably the same thing as my pension, like the global cap ETF, and just be done with it. But for now, I'm sticking with the S&P 500 for my ISA. So that's kind of what I'm doing and how I'm thinking about things. I'm trying to be, everything is automated. Money goes out from my account as soon as I get paid, goes into my, well, the pension contributions are automated by my employer, so I don't even get that money. It goes straight into my pension straight away before I get paid. And what I get paid is my salary minus whatever goes into my pension. And then what's left, some of that goes to my ISA automatically. I've got a direct debit set up with Vanguard. That's kind of how it goes. Now, I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to maintain the £1,000 a month, which is quite a lot, but we'll see. If I can't, I'll probably drop a little bit, maybe 700, maybe 500. It depends. It depends how things are going. But for now, I'm trying to stick to 1,000. I want to see at least £10,000 into my ISA. That's the idea. So now, hopefully, you understand how I'm thinking about it. And I don't want to switch from one thing to another. I don't have to worry about anything. I don't want to keep looking at my funds and see how they do on a daily basis, because I realize I don't actually care. The way I think is not related to how much value I have in the accounts. I'm far more interested in the number of units that I have into my accounts, because that's what will bring me the value at some point. It's the number of units. Whatever the price is right now, I don't really care, because tomorrow is going to be different. 2 days from now is going to be different. I've been watching, for the last couple of weeks, I've been watching the fluctuations every single day. Right? I log in once and I check how much are my funds worth it, because I want to see what's happening. And sometimes they go up, sometimes they go down. March has been a particularly terrible month, and I was down quite a lot. But then April is just flew by. It made up all the difference and just went up in the green again. But every day is the same. It just goes up and down, which to me, that means I don't really care. This is something that I have to worry about in 5 years from now, not now. So I think I'm just going to keep investing, leave it as it is. I have no reason to change. Although saying that, and this is maybe, if you're watching, if you have some advice for me, just put a comment on the video if you don't mind. Thinking to switch to a cheaper platform. So Vanguard is a bit expensive, so I'm thinking maybe something like Trading 212 maybe, but I haven't done it yet, and I'm thinking about it. As soon as my final pension transfer comes in, and I have all the money in one place, then I will think about a transfer, but not before. So let's keep an eye on that. So here we are. That's where we are, and that's where I am. Now, what's my retirement number? I would like, when I retire, to have at least £400,000 into my pension account, and preferably 50 or 60,000 into my ISA. Those are my ideal numbers. But if I'm not going to hit those numbers, then I can always adjust other things. So in future episodes, I'm going to go over what kind of options I have, what I'm thinking about. But those are my numbers, my end goal, if you will. And I need a goal because I want to see how things progress over the course of the next 5 years. It is important for me, it's important to see progress towards my goal. So I've got, for example, I want to see 200,000 into my accounts. Then I want to see 250. Then I want to see 300. I want to see a progress over time. So hopefully I'm going to be able to see something like that. Now, the global cap fund that my pension is invested into, and actually let's check the name. So it's called FTSE Global All Cap Index Fund Accumulation. That's the full name. And the ticker is where is it? Come on, Vanguard, play with me. Give me a sec. I'm just going to check on the website. There we go. The ticker is, as I said before, VAFTGAG. And looking at what it's done over the last 5 years, it's been performing quite well, actually. So 2025, it performed almost 14%, well, 13.58%. 2024, it did 18.27. 2023 it did 14.71, but 2022 it did -8. So there are years when it's a minus and years when it's a plus, but overall it's done very well. So I would be so lucky to see a 7 or 8% average return per year. I would be extremely happy with that. If I get more, that's a huge win. But we'll see. We'll see how it goes. I think I'm going to do. It's going to be very interesting to see at the end of the year. So because of these daily fluctuations, what I want to do is pay attention once a full year has been completed. So I can see, okay, over 2026, the whole year until the end of December, it's done, whatever the number is. That's the only thing that I can look at realistically and make a judgment on the particular fund. What is done in the last month or in the last 3 months or in the last 6 months is irrelevant. It needs to be a longer period of time. So I have a proper point of reference. So I'm hoping that makes sense. So anyway, I see I've been talking for about 21 minutes now. I think that's probably enough for now. Thank you very much for listening, and any comments, any questions, please put them there. Do me a favor, like, share, subscribe if you don't mind. If you want to be part of the journey, just join the journey with me. That's all I can say. I'll be here for a while, and I'm gonna try and be a bit more. I'm gonna try to put out 1 episode a week. I'm thinking. It's been a bit longer than that from the first one, I know, but that's fine. Next, I think I'm probably going to try. I'm not sure if it's a good idea to go on a specific day or whatnot, but I don't think I need to care too much about this kind of detail. I'm only just beginning, so I don't think it matters too much. So I'll put out episodes whenever I feel like it, basically. There's no need for a proper schedule. I'm just beginning, so, this is the second episode. What do you expect? I'm not a huge creator like many other people. I'm just learning and starting out. So if you want to join a normal person, someone who hasn't been doing this for a very long time, someone who's learning as well, just like you, then join me and we'll go on this journey together. Thank you very much, and I will see you shortly.